because I know there's like healing in the tones. I can feel that, and there is like a good bit of kind of somatic component. It's about kind of finding these these parts where they're sitting in your body and connecting to that energy. So I think there's got to be a way for the light language to work with that and to help bring people back into connection and wholeness.
Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone and to you, Joe Prince. I am in a Peace People conversation with Joe today. He is a therapist and also a light language practitioner, you could say, someone who brings
Mhm.
through language that transmits very high vibrations. And of course, he is someone who represents what we all wish the most for, which is peace and love and harmony. Welcome to my today's episode. Dear Joe, would you like to introduce yourself and say what comes up when you hear the word peace and harmony and
Mm.
universal, I would say, freedom?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Felina. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me on. That was a lovely introduction. And yeah, peace and harmony and freedom really, really important to me. They really resonate, and I think there's, a high level of vibration. And for me, it's something about the cosmic order, about how things are kind of designed to be when they're flowing, when they're harmonious. Things are There's no forcing, there's no pushing, there's no kind of sharp edges. Things just kind of flowing and evolving and expanding naturally. Um, yeah, and then I think when we get into the resistance to that when you have the conflict or things that could take people out of peace, then that's when there's a slight distortion from that cosmic order that underlies it all. I think I'm certainly just learning about and beginning to understand. I think humanity as a whole is kind of just beginning to see that, beginning to understand that, and be able to see that that's the pattern that repeats in all aspects of the universe when we see it.
Yes, you have had yourself a journey up until where you are right now. What would you say are stepping stones that led to discovering the value of true inner peace for you?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question, and there've been a lot of steps along the way. I think because where I am now compared to where I was even like 5 years ago is a completely different place, a completely different person, completely different like understanding of the world and of the universe. Because probably in that time I probably wouldn't have quite described myself as an atheist, but I'd be like an agnostic or semi-practicing agnostic, and would kind of tend towards those like atheist views of not believing that there was anything else out there. Although at the same time I've always been interested in well, I've loved like myths and fantasy, and I've always been interested in the paranormal and stuff. I was always interested in that as a kid, and I even studied some parapsychology at university when I did my degree in psychology. And so I was kind of aware that there was more to it than the mainstream view, but then that kind of got put on the back burner or put on hold for a long time as I was just having to find a job and make a living and kind of survive in the day-to-day reality. And kind of fell into working in mental health in that field, like after studying psychology, although not really wanting to do that, but then ended up working in that field anyway. So working with people for a long time, and learning counseling and coaching more recently. Um, so I think that was a, an important part of that journey of peace, of just kind of connecting with people and knowing what people's struggles can be, kind of seeing that and seeing how how we can end up in suffering, and being part of the system, but seeing how the labels that were kind of used in the mental health system of like putting labels and putting diagnoses on people, but then these labels not really being useful, not really helping in that system. It always seemed kind of flawed. And the more I look at it now, it seems like there's kind of, it's a crazy system to use. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Like the mainstream approach to mental health is pretty much to completely ignore emotions and kind of rely on medication and things. So yeah, that was really important to me, and just that kind of experience people experiencing the kind of, life events and stresses and patterns of thinking that people get into, and the conflicts that people get into, like these inner conflicts, and then kind of seeing that that's projected onto the world. Um, and I would say that in kind of like fairly recent times, like the most important um, psychology book that I've found, or approach that I found, is the non-violent communication approach that was pioneered by Marshall Rosenberg, and that I found was really transformative way of looking at relating to people, and that is one of the best tools for peace that I've seen in that field for sure. And it's interesting because it doesn't it's not specifically like a spiritual text, or you don't it appeals to mainstream psychology. You don't have to believe in a higher power or anything like that, but it has a lot of but it's kind of deeply spiritual within it as well, because his approach was always about finding what's alive in people, what lights someone up. Like that's probably one of his favorite questions, say what's alive in you, and seeing that passion light up, and seeing that's people have that inner drive and that inner desire to follow their joy, and do to do good and to help one another, and seeing that was the approach that said like that the evidence is this is kind of the core of who we really are in humanity, but it gets it gets lost, it gets programmed out of us, and we get to you had a great term called we get to be like nice dead people. That's a great term, isn't it? Where we're so focused on being nice and being inoffensive and just fitting in with the system, but we can lose that real vitality and that inner passion. So yeah, that was for me, I think that was one of the first kind of stepping stones that really helped me change the focus on how I was looking at psychology and how I was looking with people, and importantly about the nature of good and evil, because the big thing that he's got is like there's no right or wrong, there's no real good or evil, there's just different perspectives, and there's just every being has their own kind of needs and their own preferences and wants, and then they will try and get those. But the communication system that we've got at the moment, well, certainly in the Western world, definitely like with English and the other European languages, the way they are now, like they kind of don't facilitate the natural, compassionate communication that humanity once had. Like there's the kind of the concept of judging others is kind of built into our language, so it kind of perpetuates that worldview. And yeah, it's a fascinating story that I remember him like Marshall Rosenberg telling of one time he was working with a tribe, like a remote tribe. I think it was in South America, and his translator said to him like, "Oh, it's going to be very hard for me to translate some of the things that you say, um, because we don't have concepts for that." And Marshall was like, "Well, what if I want to tell someone that I think they're selfish? How can I do that?" And the translator was like, "Oh, that would be really hard for me to translate that, because they didn't really have that concept." He said, "I would have to say to the person that Marshall sees you taking care of your own business first, and he would prefer for you to be taking care of other people's business instead of that," because they don't have that, and that's the natural way. They don't have that concept of judgment. So that was the big thing of nonviolent communication, to bring that back and to really listen to people's needs, to kind of not hear a lot of the words, not hear the actual language, but to tune into what the emotional need is, and then reflect that back and get the clarity of the people. And that's um yeah, been really profoundly important for me. And I think that was kind of discovering that was like a first part on my journey, I think, of moving from where I was to where I am now. Um, yeah. And then I would say for me, the next step was probably going more into learning about breath work and cold exposure. I learned the Wim Hof method of breathing and going into the cold, and that really helped me as well, because I'd been struggling like with my own anxiety for a very long time. I'd been very much in that. It was kind of all encompassing to the point where I didn't even realize how how bad it was, or that it wasn't normal. I'd kind of thought that everyone felt like that, and people just handled it better. Um, sort of like the first time doing that breath work, which I did online. I think it was Wim Hof was doing like an online retreat or something. I did that online, but the first time I did that breath work, and then like I think that was the first time my nervous system managed to relax enough for me to see like, oh, there can be a different way. Like it's I don't have to feel like this all the time. It's not um yeah, I'm not stuck in this fear response, and also that's not not a natural response or a natural way to be. So um yeah, that really helps me. And I do that every day, practice the breath work. Like to start every day with a quick breath work to drop into the body and slow down the nervous system. And yeah, that has massive benefits that I've found, that helps me yeah, helps get out of my mind, um, certainly more than I have been in the past. um yeah, and I think that was kind of like this the second step in terms of being able to embody that. And I had practiced a bit of mindfulness and yoga and things like that, and always enjoyed them, but never really fully connected in that same way before. So just started doing the breath work and things, and then like the mid pandemic time, I was still working for the NHS on like a mental health support line, like suicide prevention helpline. I'd been working there for a long time, and it I mean, things had got very difficult there. The whole approach is a bit it's a bit strange, the way that they set it up, and the way that there wasn't really any training or really any understanding. But I mean, it was just kind of, you kind of got on with it, and then it would be this kind of call center environment where you'd be monitored on your talk time stuff anyway. So it was weird. And then that had got to come to a head like during the pandemic. So I ended up like leaving there after things just got too much kind of conflict there, and and it didn't align. But that was great to um be able to leave. Unfortunately, like my wife's career was going well enough that she could um support us both, or like she could take on more hours if I was at home more, to do more of the childcare and stuff. And that was and it was, yeah, I needed to leave at that point, because my own physical and mental health was not good at all. Um so kind of leaving there gave me a bit of space as well to kind of look at myself and have some time for healing and processing. Um and it was then, like, after I'd left that job, that um it's funny how these things work out, but I had this really bad um nerve pain down one arm that was really like severely incapacitating for a good while, a good few months. So I couldn't do very much. So I ended up kind of watching things on YouTube and watching things on TV more than I usually would. And I started watching lots of lots of like YouTube videos about near-death experiences, about people who'd had near-death experiences, or who'd been dead for a while and then come back, and just hearing like the powerful authenticity that these people have experienced, and have seen that there is something more, something greater out there, and getting that understanding of what's going on, and that death is not the end. Um, and then from there, I started watching. I got more into like more spiritual shows. I started watching like the Gaia TV, and I've discovered like Matthias de Stefano and his teachings and his work. As he's one who remembers all his past lives, but that was a real kind of turning point. Like, learn his stuff, and then from that's brought me into the kind of field of channeled information, of channeling, and all the spirituality that's kind of coming back now, like the ancient practices and things that are being kind of rediscovered or coming back to the fore, and the um, kind of initiatory processes and things. And that's helped put everything in a different perspective, a different picture. So that's I guess that's kind of how it started in a nutshell, or how it got me onto this onto this path, and then still working as a therapist. After that, like the other big influence was learning about IFS, the internal family systems therapy, which I came to only a few years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago. So first I heard about that, and then could see that just made so much sense, because it's the idea is it views the mind, the personality, as multiple different parts, as multiple different personality parts, instead of it just being like one monolithic personality, one person that you're working with. And that helps bring a lot of compassion, really, I think, because if you see someone doing something that you don't like, then it's not, the IFS doesn't kind of judge the whole person. It's just, oh, that's just a part of them that's come to the fore at that time, that's taken control for whatever reason. And then kind of similar philosophy to the nonviolent communication. The idea is like every part within someone's personality is trying to do good and trying to serve the whole and trying to do what it thinks is right, but sometimes they get stuck and they get in conflict with one another, or get they get out of sync with what's happening in the here and now, in the time, and so the parts will be kind of running a program that maybe helped in childhood, but doesn't help any longer. So and really importantly, it's like, as well as there's all these kind of protector parts that they're called, or I kind of think of them as like egoic parts that are trying to control and trying to keep things safe. But each person has their true deeper self, which is like the true aligned version that contains all these positive qualities of like confidence and clarity and compassion and creativity and curiosity and joy, um, that exists in everyone. That is like kind of the kind of best version of us all. And then it's just these other parts that have kind of stopped trusting it, kind of block us from getting to the core, which already exists. So it's a model that um, you know, it's not a deficit model about things that have gone wrong. It's about everything is here already. Everything already exists. Like the perfect version of us already exists, but there's just conditioning and parts that are blocking the kind of access to that, or blocking us from connecting with who we really are. So yeah. So that's been really powerful for me, learning that model and then using that in therapy and in coaching sessions. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, there are so many gold nuggets in there, what you just shared. So we might put some of the methods or links to books into the description of this video. for everyone to who wants to go deeper in one or the other direction. And as we can see, it is always a combination of different things that bring us to our true nature presence that we always wanted to be on Earth. What are the challenges that you face nowadays? I mean, you know who you are, you know how it feels to be the expression of the infinite, of the love, of the light, of the harmony, and you know how it feels to be in harmony. Yet, I guess in your life as well as in almost everyone's life, there are some challenges that come up over and over again, or sometimes.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, although I do know that inner knowing, but I'm often pulled out of it. It's kind of I guess it's kind of rare to be in that state where I can really feel that harmony and really kind of know who I am, and so a lot of it I like to use a lot of kind of affirmations to try to anchor myself into that of like knowing who I am, knowing that I'm worthy and that I'm loved and that I'm enough and that I'm safe. Um, and I think that main challenge is still those old beliefs. Yeah, there's still the old beliefs and the old conditioning, and especially as most people that I meet and interact with are still, in that old system, or believe in that old system completely, and um don't believe that there can be a difference, or that it's not like that. Most, I think, the majority of people, still believe that they are just a body, and then they die, and then that's it, and that's um and yeah, I just used to be in that, and that used to cause so much fear, so much like overwhelming sense of dread of that, like that I'm going to cease to exist, that I'm going to die, and then that's the end. That's like the annihilation of consciousness. That's all gone. That's what I used to believe in. That's kind of what the rationalist reductionist approach says, which is a really kind of scary kind of philosophy to live with. And I guess I think that's maybe part of why some of the world events, the past 100 years or so, have played out, because that's that belief's been around for not that long in human terms, maybe only 200 years or a lot less, or like from like the Darwin publishing the origin of species, and that kind of created, brought up that theory and created that mindset that it might just be this. Um, so I think that's the challenge, to not get pulled back into that, and not get pulled back into other people's like entanglements with suffering, or with judging things as being bad, or terrible, or fixating on the negative, on yeah, what can go wrong. Yeah, and um yeah, I'm kind of managing my own frustrations with the things that I see in the world, that I think are just kind of crazy, kind of like insane, but it's it's what we've got. It's where we are at the moment. Like it's in the wider society.
Yes. And do you see a difference between showing up in the world at large and showing up in the very near surrounding, like your own family? Is there anything, would you say it's easier to be in a peaceful state with those who are directly surrounding you every day?
Mm.
Or in comparison to being peaceful towards people you don't know or that come to your therapy sessions, is there anything where you would say it, it definitely is a different level?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, generally, it's definitely a lot easier in therapy sessions. It's easier because I've got that setup. So and I know I'm going to bring that peaceful energy, and usually that's a lot easier wherever that person's at. And I think home and families do tend to be the most triggering and the most difficult to remain in that peaceful state, or to remain in that there's higher vibrations. There's a lot of, yeah, a lot of challenges there. So that's probably the most difficult still, I think, being around family. I mean, my immediate family, and we have ups and downs, and trying to not judge myself and not get too annoyed with myself when I notice that I'm getting pulled into the lower vibrational states, getting pulled into like judgment and anger and thinking things shouldn't be this way, or they should be a different way. Um, and yeah, I think so. And just I'm trying to think like, and then in kind of being like in busy places or going into cities and stuff when there's lots of people around, then it's um that can be challenging as well. It's sometimes I'm quite empathic, so again I've only kind of really realized that recently, or really understood that that's what I'm doing. That was partly, I think, why I suffered such anxiety. That a lot of it I would be picking up on other people's emotions, but not always realizing that they were not mine. So that's something that, yeah, I need to kind of, if I set an intention and manage that when I'm going into busier places, that helps a lot. But if I forget to do that, or if I'm rushing, then I can get kind of pulled into that mass emotion, because there's still, yeah, still a lot of fear, unfortunately. A lot of people still kind of live in that vibration of fear. I mean, I definitely did for years, and that's kind of partly what seems to be perpetuated by the media and society. Like there's a lot of rejection of fear and worry of things that could go wrong. And so I can understand why people feel like that. So.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the easiest way then would be not to be surrounded with so many people, to withdraw from immediate family or anything like that. How is your perspective on that? I mean, there have been monks and saints that have chosen that path of, mm, yes, solitary.
Yeah.
What's your pick on that? Take on that?
Yeah, I can see why people choose that, and I can see the appeal. And I think sometimes that is sometimes when I'm at my happiest, when I'm just alone in nature, and I've just got that space to just connect and to be. Um, and also that I feel like part of um part of managing the peace and harmony, bringing the peace and harmony, and being the true version of myself, is to be able to handle that in whilst around people, and bring that to family, and kind of being in those higher vibrational states, being in that higher energy, and then that can help kind of lift other people as well by them observing that, and also by kind of feeling the energy. Like sometimes if I am in a really good, like really high vibration state, then I can kind of almost feel it like lifting other people as well. Like it can change everyone's emotional state, can bring them up. So um yeah, I can see the benefit of retreating from the world and just going into that kind of contemplation state. Um, but I think it is about, for me, it's about finding the balance and being able to be in the world and be with people and be with family, but without being pulled into that drama, with able to hold that frequency and hold that vibration. I think that's the important thing for humanity's evolution. I think for the next step, and for the people who are bringing the harmony and bringing peace to anchor that in, and anchor it in within communities, within groups of people, not just being cloistered away in monasteries or hermitages or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, I truly love that. And I feel so too. I also have when you spoke about going into therapy sessions, you tune yourself into that. And also, it's a one-time thing, right? You know they
Mm.
come and you show up, and then you go back into your sacred space, being you, knowing who you are, and you can have that wonderful, miraculous time with them because you do not have any expectations of what would happen. You know how you show up in your all of beingness frequency,
mm,
and you do not want anything from them because they trust you. And oftentimes that's exactly the challenge with people who are close by when you are not that certain of their trusting, of their love, of their benevolence, maybe, it can bring insecurities or things that might not there at all when you go into a setting and then zoom out again.
mm,
So I was wondering whether that would be something we could, and I will take that home for myself, um, whether we could go into settings that are more challenging with a similar attitude,
mm,
like knowing, okay, here I come as who I am, and I do not question my value for the others. I do not question my frequency. I do not question or mm, feel that they might think anything about me or judge me in some way or the others, and by that judging myself. So yeah, I love that you said how easy it is to get judgmental about oneself, and
mm.
that definitely has an impact on the frequency. Yeah, thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
You shared that you also came to learn light language, or let's say to practice it.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't say learn learn it. I don't think it's something you can learn or teach really. It just kind of comes through. So yeah.
For those who have never heard about that language,
Mm.
what exactly is it, and how does it come through so naturally?
Yeah, I'd describe it as a higher vibrational transmission of sound, sound that's more harmonic, and it comes not from the human brain, not from the human ego. Is another form of channeling, I guess. It's channeling, but it's not channeling using the language centers. So it's kind of just brings through the universal vibrations, which I understand is like a universal language, like a higher frequency that kind of carries maybe not like words in the same way as our usual day-to-day language does, but carries the kind of like concepts of frequency and light codes and wellness and things like that. But it is that kind of a purer communication because it doesn't activate the like I say, the language centers and the rationalizing analytical side of the brain that we we need to use to figure out what words mean and figure out what the sentence means and things like that. So um, yeah, that's my understanding, and I think it can come from different sources, different beings throughout the cosmos, different realms. Like could be thought sometimes it could come from like the angelic realms or the elemental realms, or sometimes it comes from like extraterrestrials or a higher vibration. So that's my understanding of it anyway. And oh, and interesting, and water really seems to help as well. I think it first came through for me like kind of when I started doing the cold exposure in the water, and that was one of the things that when I was first in the cold and in the showers, like wasn't really thinking about it. It was a way of kind of helping the body kind of calm. Like you can take like a just a long exhale, but from that, then other stuff started coming through with the like songs and sounds and noises and things. So, and that's yeah, it's interesting because I would say that like Wim Hof himself kind of brings through some of that light language when he's running sessions, although it's not something he's ever talked about specifically, I don't think, or that his team have talked about specifically. But it's very much he very much kind of goes into like the tribal chants and noises and things, which is everyone's style of light language.
So it is kind of a shortcut of communication and at the same time a transmission of frequencies.
Yeah, how I understand it. Yeah, although the communications, it's not it's not really at a conscious level, I guess, the same way as our day-to-day communications are. I think I kind of like I don't know the meanings of what I'm bringing through, but sometimes I'll get a like a sense of the meaning or a sense of which realm or which entities are coming through, but I don't get usually get specific messages. Although sometimes that can happen, and certainly some of the other people that I practice light language with will kind of switch. They'll like bring through light language, and then they'll switch to like um, a sentence or two of English, like channeling the message, and then go back into the light language and stuff. So it kind of merges like that. So, yeah, which is pretty cool.
Wow. Would you be open to give us a light language experience?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can do that. I can try
Oh,
and bring something through, see what comes through. Yeah, like I said, I've no idea. Sometimes I can set an intention for a certain thing to come through. So I was doing a shamanic journey yesterday, so I'm thinking that might influence who comes through or what comes through. So we'll see. But okay, yeah, I'll just close my eyes and then take a couple of deep breaths, and we'll see what happens. If that's right.
thank you.
Hmm, hmm.
Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed that. That was wonderful.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
I think that explains even better what happens with light.
Yeah, yeah. It's better to experience it, I guess, than try and explain it.
Thank you so much. Are you a singer? Have you any like music?
No, no, that's it. That's how I kind of know it's like language, know it's channeling. I've because I'm not a singer. I'm not musical. I don't have any training. Like my karaoke game is mediocre at best. That's it.
I love it. So you would say who's apt to bring through light language?
Yeah, I kind of think it's something that probably everyone can do, or everyone can tap into. And just I think just like to start with kind of singing in the shower is a good way to to start. Like when we're in the water, because there's definitely something that the water carries a lot of information, carries a lot of frequencies, and is flowing, and then just kind of just start with humming and just let it out, see what comes through. Um, that'd be my advice, but I'm not a light language expert or anything. So.
Seems as if no one has to be in order.
No.
Wonderful. Do you set any intention, or what do you feel? I mean, I know what I felt while you were doing it, and it was really calming, and it allowed me to merge into the moment and just feel the expansion of it. What do you feel while you do that, and how do you get into that state?
Um, yeah, that time I felt like when I was first bringing through the light language, and it was the kind of lower tones that was a bit that felt like a bit of like dragon energy was there, and then for me it felt a bit more kind of angelic when I was bringing through like the higher tones, and there was definitely a sense of like connecting to peace and harmony, like bringing through the frequencies of peace was where my intention was going and where it felt that it was resonating. Yeah.
Yes. To me, it's as if it activates the frequencies within us. It was like the lower tones that you would associate with the dragon energy, or have been really rooting ourselves. Like oftentimes when we are in the light frequencies, we forget that we chose to be on Earth. So it felt integrating these frequencies and then moving up. It felt to me as if it would be allowing our entire facet, all
Mm.
the facets that we have at our disposal to really integrate and tune in. And I mean that's in the end that's harmony, isn't it? That we really are good with everything that is and can allow everything, which allows us to tune into that which feels like so nourishing and so good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and I think that relates to the chakra system as well. That's what I can kind of feel like the lower vibrations, like kind of rooted in like in the root chakra, and then as the frequencies change, I can sometimes feel it like activating different areas, and like I can feel quite a lot of like third eye activation from that last light language. But it's yeah, definitely that harmony and like you say, keeping us rooted and connected to like the higher frequencies and the lower frequencies without like say without wanting to kind of just drift off into the cosmos. But yeah, remembering staying rooted and balanced on Earth as humans, as incarnate beings, like we chose to be here to kind of balance the frequencies and experience the whole range. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And actually, it's something that I feel that you also consciously chose in your life, right? You are still like a therapist, practicing a therapist.
Mm.
You have the other sides, which are not separated. I don't know. Do you intend to have two sides, or do you bring that together in one way, in or the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like ultimately I would like to bring them together, um, and do do more with light language or find a way for it to because I know there's like healing in the tones that I can feel that, and I know it can do a lot. So I would like to kind of develop that more, and maybe bring some of that into the therapy that I use. Because a lot of the therapy that I use, there is like a good bit of kind of somatic component. It's about kind of finding these parts where they're sitting in your body and connecting to that energy. So I think there's got to be a way for the light language to work with that and to help bring people back into connection and wholeness. And yeah, and maybe something with like the light language working with crystals as well, with the resonance of different crystals. Because like my friend who's leading this shamanic journey, she like runs a crystal shop at the next town over and stuff. So and she's got like an amazing collection, and I've felt some resonance with some of those crystals, and I felt like there's something there, but I don't I don't know yet. But that's something to explore, and maybe that'll come in perfect timing. So, yeah.
Wow. That sounds really amazing. Now, the question I have is how can people get in touch with you and have an experience live or maybe via Zoom? I don't know. What do you offer or what's your
Yeah.
intention?
Yeah, usually on Zoom, so you can check out my website, which is prince-therapy.com. People can book a 30-minute free discovery session with me, which and, therapy that I offer is, like I say, usually the IFS based therapy. But if people are curious about light language or something else, I'd be happy to talk about that and see if that could be of benefit. And I do have like a small office where I stay in the little town of Largs in the west coast of Scotland. So if people are local or in the kind of Glasgow area, then they can book a face-to-face appointment. But it's usually by Zoom, and I find Zoom works really well. So
Yeah, that is truly very, very beneficial for everyone, even to have that shared experience of light language with you and being in that space of peace unfolding, harmony unfolding. Yes. Thank
oh,
you
thank you.
so much. What would you like to part with? Is there anything you would like everyone to and carry in their hearts, or just to give everyone as a gift in the end of our conversation?
Mm, I would like everyone to know and to remember that they're always enough, and that they're always loved, and that they're always safe to create and play.
Thank you so very much. I'm so happy that you have been my guest today. If anyone feels called to reach out, just go ahead and check out the website and reach out directly to Joe Prince. Thank you, and
Oh, thank you so much.